Welcome to Networking and Marketing Made Simple. My name is Scott Aaron, and each week we're going to take a behind the scenes look at all things LinkedIn marketing, LinkedIn networking, and how to get what you have in front of more people. So, thank you for joining me, and let's dive on in. So, AI has really become not just a hot topic, but a topic that just hearing about it can overwhelm people, and everyone feels like they're behind, right? There's too many AI tools out there for them to utilize for their business. And this is where Nancy and I feel you're not as behind as you think you may be in the grand scope of things. So if you're listening to this on the podcasts, obviously let us know your thoughts and feelings. If you're listening to this and watching this on social, whether it's on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on YouTube, obviously please comment and let us know what you've been taking away from this episode. But also, we would love to hear from you. Obviously, Nancy and I have our favorite AI tools. What are you currently using for AI in certain instances, whether it's ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, all the stuff that's out there? Or if you're not using AI, why not? So, Nance, I know we have a lot to cover in today's episode and today's training, so I'm going to turn it right to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is one that I'm passionate about. So just full transparency, I am a huge AI geek. I love learning all about AI. I definitely jumped on the wave when things started to, blossom and unfold, last year and even prior to that, right? As AI really came out of the woodwork. And so I've been tapping in, I've been trying to stay ahead of the curve, but I will tell you one thing that I keep hearing time and time again. And really, this episode was inspired. I'll tell you that in just a second, but I keep hearing it. Okay. I keep hearing companies and people saying, oh my goodness, my head is spinning. I know we need to be using it. Or I hear the counter, which is, oh, I don't want to use it. AI is evil, whatever. So this kind of bubbled up this topic, and I'm like, oh man, Scott, we got to jump on and do this because one of the most amazing, in fact, she's an author and copywriter and digital marketer, Anne Hanley, who I actually have her book. I also subscribe to her newsletter, which I highly recommend checking it out. She's got just really great sense of humor and a great way of storytelling. But I was reading her newsletter that she just wrote after attending Marketing Prof. It's a conference where all the marketing professionals get together, and she was speaking on stage, and she put a couple quotes in there. And one was from Katie Robert, who is a marketer. And she said, while there is a lot of buzz and panic about generative AI, you're not as far behind as you think. Everyone is struggling to figure out where everyone fits and where it fits in their teams and workflow. Okay, so this is at the event that just happened last week. Okay, and there's lots of professionals, and she was just really putting that out there. And I think it's so true that so many are just like, oh my goodness, my head's spinning. The last thing we need is another, right, new tool, a new process for our teams. But I don't want you guys to really leave this episode feeling intimidated or overwhelmed. I want you guys actually feeling empowered. And I want to give you a game plan, because if you're feeling this way and you feel like, oh my goodness, we're so behind, all these other companies are already in it, using it, and whatever, how are we ever going to catch up? I just want to share with you, it's not going to be as hard as you think. And there's a couple things that you can do to just kind of get started. So before, we even jump into the next topic, I do want to plant the seed. We are going to cover a few things. We're going to talk about the best AI strategy for kind of looking at where you can put it in your business. We'll also kind of touch on implementation and how you can start to implement things. And then also, we are going to cover some of the different tools, right, that you can use within your business to get started that can really take some things off your plate. Okay. So, we're definitely going to touch on things. So, Scott, do you want to kind of kick off? I mean, what has been your experience so far in different companies that you spoke to? What is kind of the pulse and the feel right now that most people have with AI? And, are a lot of people using it? Are you finding a lot of people aren't using it?
I would say more are not using it than are. Just from my perspective with the companies and individuals that I'm consulting with right now, even people in our group program, and even in my coaching program, the fact of the matter is that people don't realize that, and again, I'm just going to name drop ChatGPT. It's our favorite. It's my favorite by far. And I always tell people that it's almost like this helper bot, or it's almost like having this virtual uh, like team member. So people that I typically work with struggle with content, right? They struggle with ideas and prompts. And that's the great thing about a platform like ChatGPT, because you can feed it information to get to know you. And using the example, or what you just kind of prompted me with, is that once people get over that learning curve and that hump of not knowing how to use it, but using it in a simplistic way for them. And I think that's the big thing that we want the listeners and viewers to understand, is the way that Nancy and I use AI is not the way that you need to use AI. Some people just needed to figure out some poll questions to ask their audience on LinkedIn. Some people need it to figure out, hey, I'm doing a workshop and it's geared towards XYZ industry and XYZ target market. What's a clever name to use for the title of it? So it's that kind of stuff. And you can also do some market research using, Claude or Gemini, which is through Google. But panicking or getting frustrated or overwhelmed isn't going to make learning AI easier. It's only going to make it more difficult.
Absolutely. So that's why we wanted to share, exactly to Scott's point, right? The panic, the frustration, the overwhelm is not helping anything. And so we really need to have that real talk, right? Where most businesses actually are in their journey, and know that you guys, just by staying still and not implementing anything and not learning about it, we're kind of holding ourselves back. But it's not like you're super, super far out of the game and you shouldn't even, just throw up your hands and say, I give up. One thing that I know for sure, right? I know as humans, right? We all struggle with change. Okay. I think everyone knows, right? The book Who Moved My Cheese, right? That's a big book that a lot of leaders use within leadership teams who are just stuck in their ways, right? We need to be able to bob and weave, especially in an age of technology that we're experiencing right now. We need to be lifelong learners. We need to be able to put that thinking cap on and know that we've got to be able to learn so that we can continue to grow. So, yes, we know, okay, don't panic. Yes, we understand that other people are in the same place. So now let's actually talk about the next things, right? Practical steps to start actually implementing AI without feeling overwhelmed. So I'll kind of dig into this first, Scott, and then you can kind
Yeah,
of tail off.
sure.
Number one, the best advice that I tell people, and I love how Scott just said it, you can simply use AI, just a tool, just like ChatGPT, for example, as a brainstorming tool. Okay. You could sit down at your computer, open up ChatGPT, and you can just start asking it some questions. You can say, I need help with XYZ. What do you recommend here? Our sales process is having some issues. Can you help me, retweak, our messaging? I would like some help posting, or creating posts for LinkedIn. So I want you guys to actually experiment, right? Because step one is knowing what the tool is. Okay. And just starting with ChatGPT, I tell people that is like the best tool to start with, because it's pretty universal, pretty simple to use. Yes, there's a free version. The paid version will give you a lot more bells and whistles. If you ask me today, is it worth getting the paid version? What would I say, Scott? Probably.
I
Hell
mean,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I would say, right? So just use it, get a feel for it, know what it's capable of. Now, you
Well,
want to,
just really
yeah.
quickly before you get to your next point,
Yeah.
you don't have to figure AI out in 1 hour. It is, give yourself that grace and realize that there's a learning curve in everything. And that's the one thing that we really want to get across to all the viewers and listeners of this training and episode, is you're not expected to learn all the ins and outs in one fell swoop, right? Every master was once a disaster, which T.R. Becker says. So just understand that there's a learning curve for everything and give yourself the grace and the time to actually learn how to implement and use AI in general.
Yeah, and a great place to start too. I think a lot of us forget how much free resources and tools there are out there. So whenever it comes to just starting as simple as just using ChatGPT, guys, go do a little search on YouTube, how to get started using ChatGPT in my business. I follow about three different, AI resources, right? One is a podcast called AI Explored. That's one that Scott actually introduced me to.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and there's a couple others that I follow. Creator Science, I actually love. They don't just talk about AI, but again, you want to find maybe a few that you really resonate with and you like. Um, but you want to just get started. So number one is start with ChatGPT, watch some YouTube videos on how to use it. Get in there, get your hands dirty, actually play with it. Okay. Now, the other thing I want you guys to think about, because whenever it talks about implementing it into your business, I want you to think about the bottlenecks and the pain points that you have in your business right now. When you guys sit at your meetings, right? When you sit down, you're going through with your team and certain things come up and you're always kind of frustrated about something. Let's say it's creating content. Let's say it's your sales conversion rates. Let's say it's your data analysis and your KPIs. There's something on there that just keeps coming up and you're not really sure quite how to dig into it. Well, guess what? You have a partner in AI where you can now say, okay, here's the problem that I have. You can go right to AI and say, here's a problem that I'm dealing with in my business. Can you help me with a solution? Guys, you can even, I know with the paid version, you can upload your whole KPI, your darn KPI report and say, give it a role and say you are a data analysis, analyst and, you're really great at business strategy. Here's my reporting. Please tell me where I can improve. You can do all of that. Okay. So finding those little gaps, those pain points, and start implementing, right, some of that in your business. Now, for me, right, we use it a lot with content. In fact, that's significantly, I would say, most of the heavy lifting. We use it a lot for content. We use it a lot to break down strategy, and kind of work backwards. But some of the prompting that you can do to, again, start simply is number one, when you're using ChatGPT, you can give it a role. And whenever I say a role, think of it like an intern, right? Think of it as a specialized person, right, that you're talking to. And you could say, you are a business strategist. You are an expert, copywriter. You are an expert content creator. And you can start giving it a role and then giving it the assignment of what you need help with. Also keep in mind, guys, and this is again, we're not covering like the next level here. We're just giving you some basics. In that chat, right? In that particular chat that you have started, it has a unique URL, right? It has an address up in the web bar that you can bookmark. You can copy it. You can save it for later in a document. You can go back to it. And everything that you've given it within that chat will be contained in that chat. Meaning you can go back and you don't have to keep telling it the information about your business. You don't have to keep going back and telling it what it is and giving it the role. Okay. So those are just some really simple ways that you can just start to implement AI without feeling overwhelmed. Okay. And these can be routines that you start to add in the business. In fact, guys, I'm just giving you an example. My doctor, okay, I went to my primary doctor the other day. He had his phone out and he said, hey, we're actually using this new AI program where we'll go through our, like our call and we use AI to actually give you some notes. It just helps us get this out quicker. Are you okay with that? I'm like, hell yeah. Right. And I got my notes, my visit notes quicker than I think I've ever seen them before. And he also said, yeah, it just helps us really collect data, information, helps us kind of pump out some things and even might help, with diagnosis. It's awesome, right? So it pulls together all that data. So now you have an example of a doctor using it in his practice and his business routine. So I just want you guys to start there with just simply learning how to use the tool and identifying where are some gaps or some pain points that you guys are experiencing in your business and just do a little testing, do a little playing around, see how you can implement it. Scott, do you want to chime in there?
Yeah, something's only a frustration when you don't try to use it. again, I think it's a natural thing for people to feel frustrated when they don't know how to do something. Think about anything that you did for the first time. I mean, I remember when I was learning to drive a car, you think it's easy, but once you get behind the wheel of that car, it's a whole other story. Now, trying to learn how to do a manual car instead of an automatic, that's a whole other can of worms. But think about anyone that's listening or watching this. If you've ever driven a manual car, did you get it right away? Like, did you get out of first gear the first time, or did you stall that car out a few times? It's you're going to stall. Like, you're going to hit a brick wall at certain points, but think about where you are now with driving that manual car. It's like second nature. You don't even think about it. You've mastered the feel of how much gas and how much to release, obviously, the clutch in order to get the car into first gear, and then you're off and cruising. So think of the learning curve with AI or ChatGPT as an example. Think about when you're starting to learn how to use it, you're navigating the gas and the clutch. Like, you're trying to find that sweet spot where you're starting to understand how it all works and how it puts together. And once you get out of first gear, it's easy to get to second and third and fourth and fifth gear, and then you're cruising down the highway.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we're going to kind of talk about identifying, which AI tools are right for your business. And for this one, number one, I just want to share with you in all of my research and everything that I've done, the three most commonly used tools, especially when we're talking about writing content or, really building out procedures or processes or different things in your business, research, industry updates, marketing, that kind of thing. The three most used tools right now by experts are ChatGPT, Claude AI, and Perplexity. Okay. Those three are the main ones that, obviously that we're using and we highly recommend. And again, the way that you use them, and we'll make sure to share these in the show notes as well, so you guys can click on them. But ChatGPT, again, it's kind of the first one that I go to. Claude is specifically trained. In fact, Claude doesn't connect to the internet where ChatGPT and Perplexity do. Claude is specifically trained on writing more human-like, really delivering beautiful human-like output. And so taking copy and content that is outputted from ChatGPT can really be so wonderful and beautiful in Claude. And you can do a lot within there. And again, we're keeping this very simple, but Claude is just amazing. Perplexity is the tool to use for research, right? It's like Google and ChatGPT had a baby. You can go in there and you can search things like, give me the top 3 industry updates right now for LinkedIn. It'll pull up and include sources and it will summarize all the information all in like 2 seconds. And you can use that information again to share it with your audience. You can take a look and do a deeper dive. It's just really cool. So, again, those 3 tools, just think of what that could do for your business right now if you implemented those.
Yep.
Okay. The other ways to use them, and again, we're going to wrap up real quick because it's a little nugget episode, is what are the pain points, right? So those are the first 3 we always recommend. As you progress, if there's additional things that you need help with, creating slides for presentations quicker, maybe creating logos and graphics, maybe doing all these other things in your business that you kind of want to lighten your load, video editing, all that stuff. Guys, there's a lot of solutions out there. Start with the 3 basic ones that I let you know first. And then the next steps would be to really dig into those pain points. Scott?
So in future episodes, Nancy and I, we're going to do an episode in the coming weeks on our favorite AI tools that we use outside of just the ones that we mentioned. Obviously, everybody is familiar with ChatGPT, but there's a lot of post-content AI tools out there that people may not know about because there are very strategic and specific ways of how to create more systematic flows on the back end of your business. And Nancy did mention this amazing podcast called AI Explored. It's on behalf of Social Media Examiner. They have 3 podcasts. This is their newest one. And you will just love these episodes. If you're wanting to find out more about AI, and I believe Michael Stelzner, I think, is the host of that one.
Yeah, from Social Media Examiner.
Yeah, Jerry Potter, he hosts the social media one. But if you just follow Michael on LinkedIn, great guy, like lots of great content. But he brings on AI experts. And there are so many interesting and fun and creative ways to leverage AI. There was an episode that he shared, and he had this guy on there that basically he built out a full back end marketing team that was all AI generated personas that helped this person basically put all their things together. So AI is not going anywhere. There's two teams of people out there. There's people that are leaning into it. There's people that are leaning away from it. And here's the great thing: no matter what business that you're running, no matter what needs or things that you're needing help with in regards to your business, there is some AI tool out there that can help you. Another quick example, Pod Squeeze, which is an AI tool that helps people better repurpose their podcast, come up with titles and show notes. There's literally, you could search anything online, and there's an AI tool for it. So we just wanted to, kind of wrap up and just make sure that simple and easier is always better. The more confusing something may get, the less likely you are going to use it. So go to the show notes and the description of this episode and training. You can find out more about Claude, Perplexity, and ChatGPT. Do your research, play around with them. Nance, are there free versions for all three of them, or do you
Yes,
know?
and I think they are changing like almost every day. I think there's updates happening. I know you can only use Claude a few times, and then they do ask you to bump up. And there are definitely benefits. Again, we're not going to expand on it too much in this episode. There are so many benefits of actually upgrading. And just to kind of chime in there too, I was going to say the three that we just mentioned today, they are literally the foundation of almost all the rest of them. So having a good understanding, and again, we just want to get you started, and so you don't feel so behind. These are going to be the foundational ones that are really going to set you up for success for all the other ones that you may decide to incorporate into your business.
Yep. So here's a challenge to anyone that's watching or listening. If you love LinkedIn as much as myself and Nancy, and you do LinkedIn polls like we do for market research, and you're not sure what to ask, go to ChatGPT and say, "Hey, Chat, my client avatar are lawyers, doctors, and XYZ professions. Can you give me 3 or 4 great questions to ask with response options that will stir up conversation and engagement?" And just watch the magic happen. So we just wanted to thank you guys for tuning in today. Again, if you're listening on the podcast side of things, please support us, subscribe. You can also engage. You can find us on social. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on LinkedIn or Facebook, please comment below. Let us know what you took away most from this. And the bigger question is, which of those three that we mentioned, Claude, Perplexity, ChatGPT, are you going to use first? Or if you're using them, which is your favorite? So everyone, we hope you enjoyed today's episode and training. Love and gratitude to each and every one of you, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Thank you so much for checking out today's episode. If you could, please support this podcast by hopping over to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or any place that you're listening to this. Leave us a rating and review. Let us know what you loved most and what you would like to hear more of. But also, if you would like to learn how to take your business to the next level, whether it's using LinkedIn or working directly with myself and Nancy in our intimate group coaching programs, you can head over to www.thetimetogrow.com or scottaaron.net to learn more. Thank you again for your support, love, and gratitude, and I'll talk to you soon.